Sunday. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of True Story Live. Happy to be here on the 23rd of May. It's already getting warm here. We're talking about that before the broadcast. It's getting warm here and getting starting to get cold where Glenn is. So it's awfully strange to me that winter starts. I mean, it makes sense. It's a different part of the country. The winter
world, you mean?
World. That's what I meant. Completely different.
I was like, wait a minute.
What is it? Was it a continent over there?
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, probably. It's an island, right? Isn't it an island, Glenn?
Yes.
Yeah. Surrounded by water.
Talking.
Oh, you are so ignorant, Chris.
See, people. The word ignorant gets bad rap. It just means you don't know. That's okay. You know, be ignorant. That's all right.
It's everything I said about the US. You are. That's the universe. Is the USA.
No, I know that's not true. I hope that's not true. I think it's great that there are other countries out there. There are places to go where things aren't exactly the same as here.
Hallelujah.
But I can't live in a place that doesn't offer ice when you go in the restaurant. That's a no-go for me. I mean, I could visit, but I couldn't live there. They don't give you ice when you go in the restaurant for your drink. Just I guess everything's warm.
No, you can. Right? If you ask for it, they probably give it to you.
Yeah, well, I ask for it. Well, then of course, then I get looks, get the side eye, because I'm asking for ice. That stupid Americans demanding ice for his drink.
Well, American fast food like McDonald's will always put a huge lot of ice into cups so they don't have to give you as much stuff it costs.
Yeah. I don't know. I think you get the ice machine. Maybe there's an initial cost, but you get the ice machine, and it shouldn't cost that much to produce ice. You know, pretty much does it automatically.
Who has an ice machine?
I'm saying, you know, there's no cost to it. If you get an ice machine in Australia, I mean, what's the big deal? You just make some ice and put some in the drinks if they want it, and you're good to go. Move forward in your life.
Are we really on air talking about ice?
Yeah.
For a second there, I was like, "Oh, we're not on the air yet." Okay.
Nobody's listening. You know? There's nobody here. It's just three of us having a conversation. That's all it is. People will be in later. So I mistakenly posted the show and it wasn't ready, and then I had to delete it, and so I redid it again. So I don't even know if people got the notification or not. Obviously, I'm showing green, and we're coming out there, I believe. So
yeah.
We'll wait for people to come in, but right now it's just you in the chat there. So we're going to move forward anyway. So I will, for those listening to playback, thank you for stopping by, and we are going to get started in a minute. Tonight's topic is an unfinished life. Open your eyes. And another good one from Glenn. He's actually doing the next several broadcasts before we switch the reins over to one of us or both of us, Jen and myself. We'll do a couple after the fact and give Glenn a much deserved break at that point. Were you going to say something, Jen?
I was going to say the title should have been An Unfinished Life. Give me some ice.
Give me some ice. Darn it.
That would have fit in with y'all's earlier conversation.
Yeah. Well, my mom was the one that she had. One of her things was Diet Pepsi. She drank Diet Pepsi out of the can, and she would get some ice, and she wanted to pour it in herself. She didn't want someone to put a bunch of ice in there and dilute it. It's already diet, so she didn't want it watered down. So she would get a glass of ice, and she'd put the Diet Pepsi in there. And it was her that told me the story about when going to Australia. And one of the reasons that she couldn't live there was because they don't provide ice. That's the whole reason. And I thought Glenn would remember that. And so,
I do. I remember her going. She was very audacious. She'd go to the drive-in windows of these places and ask for a cup of ice. That's it. And they give it to her.
Yeah.
I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Talk about a pain in the ass.
There you go. Well, yeah, she usually got what she wanted. You know, a lot of people didn't want to tussle with her. She was a little intimidating, you know, at times.
Not really.
Well, maybe not to you. You had, if you have her number, you know, then she's, you know, easy to deal with.
Put it a bit, I would say direct might be a better word than intimidating.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, she's direct.
I think being direct can be intimidating.
Sure. Sure. My sister's direct. And a lot of people have said that she's intimidating. And she's like, I don't see myself as intimidating. So I guess it's, if a person is direct, they can come across as being intimidating, especially, I guess, if other people aren't direct. Then they don't know how to deal with it when someone's
If you're not used to it.
Yeah, you're not used to it. Yeah, that's right. All right, so we'll introduce the panel. For those of you that are tuning in, that this is your first time listening, we welcome you. And so I am Jason Cripps, and I am the voice, I guess, behind the microphone here, and I kind of host this broadcast. But I am joined and by Jen and Glenn, and I'll start with Jen, who is my beautiful and wonderful, amazing wife, who cooks and cleans and works and laughs and cuddles and kisses and hugs and does everything. It's all wonderful.
Oh, thanks, babe.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm glad to be here tonight. I'm always anxious in a good way to read and listen to Glenn's write-ups and questions. They're always challenging to the brain, and my brain likes challenge.
Yeah, it does. We have a fantastic brain.
Thank you.
Yep. Also with us, we have Glenn from Australia, our friend from Down Under, and he did the write-up tonight, and we're glad to have him. He also produces the show, which we very much appreciate. Glenn, how's it going?
Not too bad. What about yourself?
Good. I'm good.
Oh,
Good.
yeah.
Yeah. For me, I think I talked last week about it being the end of tax season, so that's come and gone, and the busy season is over, and so it won't get that busy until it amps up again sometime next March or so. Beginning of March is when the majority of people at least start filing, you know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that do it in March, the ones that don't procrastinate. And then if nothing changes and the original April 15th deadline is still in place by this time next year, then it'll be busy a month earlier. But because of the deadline this year, that switched to May, which was to my benefit, being a seasonal worker at the time. I would have missed an extra month of work. So please procrastinate. It's a benefit to me. It's all about me anyway. So wait till the last minute. All right, enough of that. We only have one person in the chat so far, but Jen, if you'd like to say hello to them.
Yes. Hello, Journey's Wake. And we also have Journey's Wake. And Journey's Wake.
There you go.
Now, who's Journey's Wake again?
Mr. Wake?
Yeah, who's Mr. Wake?
I'm not sure. He's our friend.
Yeah.
It's okay.
I don't know the real name. I ever asked. I don't know.
So where did you meet Mr. JW?
He's come into the show.
No, he
Is
was
he
around
from one of the
before
other
this, wasn't he?
shows?
Wasn't
he part of some of the other shows?
Yeah, I think Talking Doctrine. I think he or she has been in there.
Also, it could be a she.
It could be.
Oh,
could be.
Might be time for a gender reveal.
Tommy. Okay, so it's not a she.
Tommy.
Tommy. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Hello, Tommy. Now we've affixed a name to the handle. Appreciate that. Welcome. We're glad that you're here.
We learn something every day.
Yeah, we
Yes.
sure do.
That's the goal, at least one thing.
Yeah. All right. Before we get started, I will, for the playback, talk about our meeting on Tuesday. Glenn has a couple of questions, and nothing incendiary or anything, nothing too serious, just some questions for you guys. So if you haven't been to one of these Tuesday night meetings, we definitely welcome you. It's not a particular topic usually. We're just getting to know each other, and they have been good. I've only missed one that I can remember. I wasn't there for that, but apparently they had a really good time in my absence, and that's good. I'm glad people have a good time and have great conversations. And last week we had some questions about salvation and more biblically based stuff, which is fine. And then so Glenn has some follow-up questions and comments. So you don't want to miss that. And it's not live on air or anything. It's just in the group meet. If you've never been to one, all you have to do is shoot me an email. Let me know if you're interested in joining, and I'll send you the link back. And then we're still working on. Glenn sent me a link to what do you call it? You put it on your.
Is this the Google Drive?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's the link, which is basically the overview of these 6 shows.
Oh no, not that. The thing for the Tuesday night that allows.
Oh, yeah.
I
yep,
can't.
we can provide that. It's just a link. It's just a link to enable entry into the meet room.
No, the thing that controls to allow people to come in without knocking.
Oh, the app, like an add-on extension.
Add-on. I couldn't think of the word. Add-on extension, and it didn't work. People still had to ask for permission, so we're still working on that. But anyway, if you want the link, then I'll send it to you, and that's going to be Tuesday evening at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So everyone's welcome. We'd love to have you. All right, so there's that.
I just want to quickly add that it's absolutely in the spirit of all getting on together. Absolutely no confrontation, and it's all in the spirit of respect. And yeah, it just shows that, like we were talking before the show, we see so much angst out there, but the truth is it's really quite possible to coexist, that's for sure, even with different views.
Yeah, I don't mind talking about that a little bit. I think one of the things I was saying was if you don't have the conversation, if you don't ask the questions, you're not going to understand another person's perspective any better than you did before. But if you're willing to have a conversation about it, look, maybe sometimes it's awkward. Maybe it's difficult to ask questions, or you think that the other person's going to overreact and be defensive and things like that. But that was not the case on Tuesday night when some questions were asked, and it went, in my opinion, it went by very well, and everyone was polite and kind, and some questions were answered, and it was a great conversation. So as Glenn was saying, we can coexist with different beliefs, different belief systems, and we don't all believe the same thing. It doesn't have to be like some of the Christian chats, and I say Christian reluctantly in quotations, or as Glenn says, inverted commas. Is that what you say? Doesn't have to be like that. It doesn't have to be where someone comes in the chat and they have a different belief, or they ask a question like Darlene did, asked a question and gets their head bit off and blocked and all that. It just doesn't have to happen like that.
Nope.
So that's not what we're offering. We're not going to block you. We're not going to throw you out for having a different opinion. In fact, we welcome different opinions. That's what part of this is. It's people being willing to come to the table and have a conversation and having discussions. That's what it's about. Ultimately. And we hope that people benefit from that, from these broadcasts, from asking questions and trying to answer them from our perspective. Everyone has their own opinion, and you can answer the questions from your perspective, and that's the way it should work. Anyway, all right, so we're going to get started. An Unfinished Life, Open Your Eyes, and I had it pulled up, and now it's gone. There we go. All right, An Unfinished Life, Open Your Eyes. We're only as blind as we want to be. Maya Angelou. Why then an unfinished life? Well, it's one thing that we can say each person who is alive has in common. We're all going to expire. An Unfinished Life, and the link is in the description. Please see the link below for the proposed overview of upcoming shows. Feel free to contribute thoughts, ideas, and suggestions, etc. And that link is in there. Another quote, sometimes the bad things in life open your eyes to the good things you weren't paying attention to before. Unknown who said that. And then the link for the song, Open Your Eyes. It's described as serious strings and piano, led with a solo cello, playing a somber theme, builds gradually for a montage with ticking percussion, marking progress and optimism. Drums and orchestra layer with elegant choir accents for a restrained yet sweeping climax. Audiomachine album La Belle Epoque. Tonight, part 2 essentially looks at what we wish for ourselves and how we feel about what we have. When it comes to crunch time, what's really important and what is not that relevant at all. We also look at the meaning of failure in relation to our examples. The big one, what do I want? What do I wish for, etc. Think about it on a scale from 1 to 10, with 10 being most relevant. What is the importance of what you want or wish for compared with what you actually have? In context of an unfinished life, our examples are money, material goods, and home comforts, career, work, and related goals, health, fitness, and wellness, originality, adventure, and comfort zone, freedom, security, and safety, happiness, contentment, and peace of mind, confidence, acknowledgement, and approval, family, children, and friends, love, intimacy, and reconciliation. Wow, those are some good ones. These are but a few examples that might assist us to open our eyes to what value we place on the tangible versus the intangible. One can have money, a Bitcoin account, gold bars, etc., but only you can compare that with the importance of love, happiness, and contentment. The other angle to look at what we don't have compared to what we do is via the construct of failure, blame, and fault. How many times have we seen it? People assign that the I am a failure, it's all my fault, etc. tag to themselves when it is not their doing at all. Add that to I have no options, I am stuck, there's no way forward for me, and it's a double whammy. As Crips know, I detest the word failure because it feels so final, so inescapable, when it need not necessarily be like that at all. So what does failure mean to you? How do you view your own failings? Do your perceived failings tend to prevent you from testing the waters in the future? Albert Einstein said, a person who never made a mistake never tried anything new. And Albert Hubbard said, the greatest mistake you can make in life is to be continually fearing that you will make one. Seriously, what's the problem if we stuff up sometimes? How about the suggestion that we embrace our failures and think of them as opportunities? So for next week, we examine forgiveness, its meaning and relevance to our unfinished life. And then the last quote, a small but excellent thought. Open your eye and close your eye. And the I is the letter I, by Shalini Jain. And we'll read that again toward the end. That's a good one. All right. So we have a couple more people, and just to save time, I'll say hello to Annette Sandrock and also to Celine. So we're glad both of you were able to stop by. And again, I'm sorry about the confusion with the links. I was saying at the beginning that I posted one, but I made the mistake of posting it when it wasn't quite complete. And then so I deleted that. And once it was all put together the way it was supposed to be, then I posted it about a half an hour before we started the broadcast. So my apologies for that. We'll do better in the future. We'll make sure it gets all buttoned up a little bit early so you guys make sure you get the link sent out. All right, so let's dive right in. Definitely, guys, Jen and I were talking, before we get started, Jen and I were talking about I think it's the second song that Glenn put into one of his write-ups this second time around, and Audiomachine. And it was one of the most moving songs I've ever heard. It was very, very deep to me and very moving. And apparently Jen reacted to that same song as well. She brought it up the other day, and I was saying, yeah, that really is thus far of all the songs Glenn put up, it's the one I've reacted to the most. And there's no words. It's just it's instrumental, but it is beautiful. So my whole point is that Audiomachine puts out some really good stuff. So if you've never clicked the musical link, I am someone that enjoys music, and I think all three of us do. If you enjoy music at all, go and check out these guys. It's worth it. So I like these descriptions for the songs too in here. Glenn made it clear that he doesn't write those. They're in inverted commas, so that should give you an indication that it's getting it from somewhere else. But they're beautiful, and they're usually very accurate. And this one, it mentions the cello. That's another instrument that I love. There's a lot, actually, there are a lot of, on YouTube, you can find a lot of musical pieces that have cello in it. Okay. So we are only as blind as we want to be. That's how tonight's broadcast, the first quote, Maya Angelou. For those of you that don't remember who that is, she was a poet. In fact, I believe that she read one of her poems at the first inauguration of Barack Obama as president. She was there for that. Maybe some people remember her from that. But anyway, that's good. We're only as blind as we want to be. That's an interesting quote. So it seems to me as if she's implying that we don't have to be blind. It's only if we don't want to see something, then we don't look at it. Therefore, we're blind. We're only as blind as we want to be. Okay, so I'm going to scroll down to where the first set of comments are. So I'll go over this again really quick. The big one: what do I want? What do I wish for, etc. Think about it on a scale from 1 to 10, with 10 being the most relevant. What is the importance of what you want or wish for compared with what you actually have? In context of an unfinished life, our examples are, the first example is money, material goods. Let me go back up. I think I'm messing about here with your slides, Glenn. So I'll go. You had the quote on there, and I should have read the second one.
No, you're good.
Sometime.
You're
Okay.
good.
All right. First one is money, material goods, and home comforts. So I believe that these we're supposed to look at as a panel. We're supposed to look at each one and determine what level from 1 to 10. With 10 being the most relevant, what's the importance of what you want or wish for compared with what you actually have? So in context of an unfinished life, our examples are, the first one is money, material goods, and home comforts. So where would you put that on a scale for you, Jen, if you want to start?
Yeah, what have you got, Jen?
Money, material goods, and home comforts.
Well, can all three have different scores?
Sure. Why not?
I know, right? So I know money, it's not super important. It's only as important as, we need it to have a house.
Right.
Roof over our heads, food in our fridge,
Hmm.
clothes on our back, kind of a
Yeah.
thing.
Mhm.
Gas in our car to get to work.
Yeah.
Material goods, really low on mine.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful that I just at some point, I think because I had a lot of stuff. We had an antique store, and then we just
Yeah.
had all these collectibles and stuff. And
Yeah.
um, by the end, I just felt like I was choking on it, and I just wanted to burn it all.
Yeah.
Because being in the midst of all of this material stuff, it did not make me feel any more connected
Right.
to my ex
Right.
or to anyone.
Right.
um, just yeah, and I kind of got a really good look at how people use material things to kind of fill the void that relate the lack of relationships.
Yeah.
And it just falls so incredibly short.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd say that's definitely like a 0, not even a 1.
Not even a
0.
1. Wow. Okay.
Ugh, material stuff. Home comforts. Yeah, I think this would be most important.
Okay.
I think about a safe place at
Right.
home. Place to kick up your feet, cuddle
Yeah.
with your husband,
Yeah.
or the people you love.
Yeah.
That's most important to me. What about you?
Yeah. Good question. I would agree with you that home comforts, the way that you're looking at it, I'm sure people can look at it different ways, whatever home comforts means to you, and that's fine. By the way, please share these in the chat if you'd like. Well, I know we only have a few folks here, but if you want to um, rate these as we go, I'd be more than happy to include that in the conversation. So please add those. Yeah, like you said, Jen, I think you described it well. Money is a necessity. I mean, it's what our economy is based on. It's based on
Yeah.
having money. So, like you said, obviously we need to pay bills and things like that. But I've shared this with you before. I just want enough to be able to, not have to be in this place of worrying about it. And I try not to worry about it. But when bills are piling up and you're worried about things getting shut off, it can become a problem. And I've gotten better at it as I've gotten older and more mature. I've pretty much ran the whole gamut. Back in the day, I didn't care enough about money, material goods, or paying bills for that matter. So I've been in a place before where other things were more important to me. I'd let my driver's license plate expire. I drive around on expired tags, and very, very different thing for me back then. I mean, and sometimes I'd go a year, 2 years without getting pulled over.
Oh
But
my.
it only takes you pulling up to a light, and the cop pulls behind you and sees that you have an expired tag, and then you're paying the piper. That's it's fines and tickets and penalties to get it
Yeah.
all taken care of again. So it's not a good way to live, is my point. So the money is a necessity, obviously, but on my list of things, I would say a little higher than Jen, maybe a 2. And that would simply be because I would like to not have to worry about not having it. I would rather have a little bit of it so that it removes that little bit of worry that I sometimes have. I agree with you, Jen. The home comforts part, having a roof over our head and it being comfortable, we call it our bubble. But it's the bubble's made more of the two of us being together in our relationship than it is where we live.
Yeah.
I think it could be a more drabby apartment, smaller. It could be whatever. And as long as we had love in our relationship, which we will, then it could still be comfort. It could still be home. I think we take home with us wherever we go. If you're home with the person that you're with, doesn't matter where you go, you're always home, whether it's a hotel, whether it's a crappy apartment or a beautiful mansion. Beautiful mansion doesn't do any good if you're not connected to the person that you're staying with, that you're spending your life with.
Yeah.
So you could have all the material goods in the world and your bank account full of money, but if you don't have that connection, to me, it's pointless.
Yep.
So I would put home comforts up probably around a 7 or an 8, maybe.
Okay.
For me. What about you, Glenn? Money, material goods, and home comforts. So you want to lay it out there for us?
Yeah, sure. I'm going to, rather than look at this from the poverty aspect of the third world, I'll look at it just from where I live, where we live.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Otherwise, it gets too complicated.
Right.
I'd say on what we have is about a 5 or a 6. We've got a lot more than many, but a lot less than some.
Right.
So it's not easy for us in money. So we're in the middle somewhere.
Right.
Material goods, same. Home comforts. Well, home comforts. I think just having a roof over your head, and having a warm bed and
Yeah.
a house there where you don't freeze. And I mean, in terms of home comforts, I'd be much higher. I'd say 7 or 8. That would go.
Sure.
And in terms of what would I aspire to, probably in terms of money, another couple of points would be good because it'd give us more options.
Sure.
To do more things, but it's not a necessity. It's
Right.
not something we can't live without.
Right.
So in terms of the importance of it, no, I don't think it's that important, but it's certainly particularly relevant to someone like Sandra who needs an electric blanket. If you can't afford it, she's going to be in a lot more pain. So it's all so relative to that. But in general terms, I'd say we're in the middle ground. And if you said, you're okay not to have more, I'd say, well, I'm happy with what we've got. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. There you go. Thank you, Glenn. I'd like to say hello to Brother Dave. We haven't seen you in a while. We're glad that you're here. And he gave you a compliment, Glenn. He said, great job on the description, whoever wrote it. I just read the whole thing and I felt like I was on an adventure.
Nice.
Thanks, Brother Dave. Good to see you. Welcome. All right. So we got through the first one. The second one is career, work, and related goals. And I'll start with this one. Career means nothing to me. I have mentioned this before, but my dad's a workaholic. And I saw him put work first every time. And it hasn't changed. He's 73 and he still puts work first. And unfortunately, I mean, it's what he wants probably to die on a job site. He's been encouraged as he's gotten older to, stop working, but he can't. It's tied to his self-esteem, in my opinion, and who he is. And so I went to the opposite end of the spectrum when it comes to work. Doesn't mean I don't have a work ethic. I know work is important, but as far as a goal in an unfinished life, I would say it's maybe a 1 for me, work and related goals. I would love to have a decent job, but I would have to have it be something that I love, something that I could, when I take a vacation, the phone's not ringing off the hook with all these unmet expectations. I would hate a job like that. When I'm not at work, I want to be done with work. I don't want to bring my work home with me. I don't want, in spending time with Jen, I don't want to stop what we're doing and stop our enjoyment of our time together and deal with a work-related issue. And maybe I'm dreaming. Maybe that there's not a world that exists where your work is at work and your home is at home, and those two things don't ever meet. But I've seen people that put career first, and at least in my observation, I have seen that other things, if you put something first, other things get neglected. And for me, I'm not going to neglect my important relationship. That's going to be number 1 for me every time. So if career suffers because of that or work suffers because of that, I'm okay with that sacrifice. I'm okay paying the price for that. And sometimes that means not having the number 1 above the money, material, goods. It may mean that I don't have a whole lot of those. It may mean that, I wear the same clothes, throughout the year, or 2 years, whatever. That's okay with me. Sure. Would I like to have a nice wardrobe and have, different pair of socks for every day and all that? Sure. I mean, there'd be some enjoyment I would get out of that. But as far as having to do what it takes sometimes, I don't know how people make it. I mean, we live in a world where the prices on everything seems to be higher and higher, higher inflation and all that. And then some people have to work 2, 3 jobs just to have an apartment. And it's ridiculous. I mean, I think there should be more value put on other things other than that, but it's the world we live in. So for me, career, work, and related goals about a 1. It's really low on the scale, honestly, for me. What do you think, Jen?
Hmm. What is mean by related goals, like career and work goals?
Yeah, career,
Okay.
work. Yeah,
Yeah, it's about middle of the road. It's um, important,
sure.
to have money and be able to pay bills. And it's important in the way that, like, for me, I commit the work of my hands to God and want to please Him, and
Yeah,
also have some pride in the work that I do, and
yeah.
be proud of myself at the end of the day when I do a good job, and
Hmm.
I'm not just existing through it
Yeah.
just to get home, even though I do want to get home to my amazing babe.
Oh,
Um, but yeah, it's more middle of the road.
okay.
Um, I don't know if we were going to add the what is the importance of what you want or wish for compared to what you actually have, part of this
Sure, sure.
question.
You can answer it. I think you can answer it however you want,
Okay.
honestly. Yeah. So
Mm,
you could throw that in. What do I want? What do I wish for, etc. Is that what you mean? Or what's the
yeah,
importance? No, you were saying what is the importance of what you want or wish for compared with what you actually have?
yeah. It just adds a facet to the
Yeah, I
questions.
think you're right. So go
Not,
ahead and
not that
yeah.
I know how to answer.
Oh, okay. Well,
um,
I
well, I
mean,
think I think the importance of what I want and wish for with work. I think it's good to have goals, and I
sure.
think it's good. Like you and I had some conversations today about my art, and
Yes.
I think it's important that when God gives you something to actually use that. Um, Sometimes I just from a creative side, I think sometimes maybe God wants us to do it as a job, and or maybe it's just for our own joy.
Uh-huh.
It doesn't necessarily have to be a job.
Yeah.
And the other part of that was, what is it compared with what you actually have? I'm not doing art right now, but I love the job that I have. I'm nannying,
Right.
and I love kids.
Yeah.
And I love making a difference in kids' lives and making sure they're seen and heard. Um, just from coming from a place where I was a kid that I didn't feel seen and heard
Right.
very much. And so it's nice to pass that along to kids, even if I'm
Yeah.
not their parents or relative.
Right. They'll
So,
never forget that. I've told you,
yeah.
they'll never forget your involvement in their life. You can make a mark or make an impression and help mold them into wonderful, wonderful people.
Hmm.
So that's good. I'm going to mention something really quick. Now, Glenn, brother Dave, said, well, 2 things. Annette asked about Tuesday night, and I will talk about that again at the end. But I also wanted brother Dave to know. He says, Glenn, that sounds interesting. After Glenn shared that he has some quote spiritual questions unquote that he's putting together for Tuesday. So I don't think brother Dave knows about the Tuesday night. So if you want to come, brother Dave, you're more than welcome. If you're interested, just shoot me an email and I will send you the link. That's Tuesday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. To
What's
answer
your
your question,
What's your email again?
it is truestorylive.crips@gmail.com. I believe brother Dave has it. He sent me an email before, but that's what it is. One more time, truestorylive.crips@gmail.com. Pretty easy. So it's the name of the show, .crips@gmail.com. Name of the show, .crips. There you go. So going back to this one before we talk to ask Glenn. So I'll say that where my career, work, and related goals is at is, I do work and it's important. I would say it's probably at a 5 right now. I would like it to be a little higher, not in the way that I see it or embrace it, but I'd like to get a better job, simply to be able to live a little bit better in this world and be able to pay bills and stuff. maybe a 6 or a 7, maybe go up a little bit on that as far as what I would think is relevant, or um, what I wish for as compared to what I actually have. So what I actually have is like a 4 or a 5, and what I would actually like is a 6 or a 7 in the area of career work and related goals. So there's room for improvement, I guess, is the point. What do you think, Glenn, about this one? Career work and related goals, and uh, let's try to add into that what you put in the write-up, which is what is the importance of what you want or wish for compared with what you actually have, as Jen's suggestion.
Yeah, it's been a 2. The motivation level to have a career and be work focused has always been extremely low. I've tended to work for lifestyle.
Mm.
In other words, I don't like work the whole year. I'll work half the year maybe.
Right.
But I'm also fortunate that I've been able to arrange that and be able to pay the bills. So I think and I'm in a field now that I would never have even dreamed of, because my background is totally science. So I think it means less to me because I've always been able to get away with my experience being more relevant to people who are going to be clients than my qualifications.
Yeah.
So therefore, it's always remained low. I was just actually talking about this with Sandra this morning, and she said, "Well, you're just slack," and that's true. It is very true. I just couldn't be bothered motivation-wise. So, what have I got? I'm still at 2. I mean, I'm still not interested. I'll do what I have to do. I'll probably work until I'm mid-70s if my health holds out.
Yeah.
Hopefully, but it's not. Okay, in terms of attitude, it's different, because when I was working before, it was a drag. But now with Sandra having such issues, and there's a lot of difficulties in life, it's actually therapeutic. So whilst it doesn't mean a lot to have a career, the work itself is actually stimulating and therapeutic. So I can't complain about that. Yeah, it is. It's a distraction. It's good, and I'm getting to interact with people.
Yeah.
You know, majority of my clients are a long way away, but it's the global world. So yeah, so
Okay.
two and two.
Gotcha.
All right.
2 and 2, right back at you.
Okay,
And
thank you.
Glenn, we're answering these correctly. Is that
You
was that what you
answer
were
however
picturing?
you, Jen. That's the whole joy of this. You answer how you want.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you, Glenn. Gia Loves Jesus says, I tend to be a perfectionist, so I have to watch that even when I'm doing artwork.
Oh, sounds familiar.
And then what she says is, once I get started, I can't stop. Well, there you go.
Nice.
We'd love to see some of your art, Gia.
Yeah.
Jen is a very good artist, in my opinion. She's in a place of getting that started, and really focusing in on creativity and imagination, and producing some things. And I think that there will be some things to share here in a little bit. I don't think she's too shy about sharing her work with others. So
Nah.
yeah. Okay. So again, you guys can answer these if you want to. Just on a scale from 1 to 10, how important are these? If you want to be involved, we'd love for you to do that. The next one is health, fitness, and wellness. And we'll ask you, Jen, first. Health, fitness, and wellness. Where does that fit in on a scale from 1 to 10? What is the importance of what you want or wish for compared with what you actually have in the area of health, fitness, and wellness?
It's funny. They're very important to me. All 3 of those. And it's interesting because it's like moving in a forward trajectory, but I'm very happy with where I'm at right now. It's not this obsessive thing.
Right.
That I'm just counting calories and all kinds of crazy stuff.
Right.
But being in an unhealthy place physically for a really long time, gosh, it got old.
Right.
So switching to this other kind of lifestyle for the past couple years has been really nice. It's a way of showing myself self-love and God too. This is my temple, the Holy Spirit dwells in, and um, I've really tried to look at it that way. And for a while, I kind of had to lean on that because I think I was more attuned and focused on making the Holy Spirit happy than myself,
Right.
which I don't think is a necessarily bad thing. But I mean, I think God wants us to feel comfortable, in our bodies and it not be a thorn in our side
Sure.
or
I
a
agree.
hindrance. Because
Yeah.
it's so strange, it's weird, weird, weird being in a place where your self esteem is really low. Um, and you don't want to be self focused, but unfortunately you are because you're so uncomfortable and your self esteem is just really low. And you're afraid, you had that mindset everybody's looking at me, everybody notices I'm uncomfortable. It's
Yeah.
this weird idea of thinking that everyone's looking at you when they're not, it's just a strange, strange, strange place to be.
Yeah. I would agree. Okay. Health, fitness, and wellness. I go back and forth with this. I have for a very long time. It's actually something I've, just as Jen was talking about that, she is describing me in a way where I've dealt with that a lot. Where on one hand, carrying a lot of extra weight, some more than now. I mean, I still have definitely some pounds to lose, but I've been a lot heavier and I was miserable at higher weights. I am not at all miserable now. If I never lost another pound, I would, for the most part, I would still be comfortable and things like that. But I want to be more focused on it because I want to live longer, and the better chance of involving fitness in my daily activity or at least weekly activity. It just, I could get hit by a bus. So, I mean, you can do everything right and something else still happen. But I want to do the best I can in the area of health, fitness, and wellness to, increase my chances of living longer
Yeah.
because I love my life with my babe. And I want to enjoy as much of that as possible moving forward. So I would say it's maybe at a 3 or 4 right now. But what I hope is that it gets up to about a 7. I don't ever want it to be the main focus of my life, but I could definitely focus on it more. So there's that. What about you, Glenn, on this one? Health, fitness, and wellness. Where do you place that in your life?
Well, I think health has got to, uh, in terms of importance, in terms of an unfinished life, it's got to be 10 because if you've got your health, how are you going to have to live your unfinished life in a place that you want to be from? Because let's face it, the day someone taps you on the shoulder and says you've got 3 months, it's not, what are you going to say then? So I think if you can do it, this is one case where what I have, I would rate at a 7.5, maybe an 8. But what I'd rather have is more, and that's down to me. And I'm not at this point doing enough. I know I could do a lot more, so I want to do more, and as I said, I've got to take responsibility for that.
Right.
But if
Right.
you at this age, late 60s, and you can have decent health, I think it's everything. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and the fitness and wellness is up to you. But
Right.
as you say, I mean, if you're smoking 40 a day
Right.
and you're drinking a bottle of scotch every day,
Right.
or doing stuff like that, well, you're not exactly helping yourself, are you? Just think
No.
in moderation, and
No.
it's something's going to go wrong.
Yeah. Sure.
So,
Sure.
yeah.
Well, yeah, you mentioned drinking. I didn't drink like that, like you suggested, not every day, but certainly more a part of my life when I was younger, and it's not now. And I enjoy my life more without that being a factor. So I think the more choices you make that are healthy choices for being healthier and having fitness and being well, I think it's a good thing. So it should have some focus. I would agree.
I think it's good, but I think when you see people that it is a chronic obsession, I can't do that.
Right.
There comes a point where you say, well, you're doing all this, but surely are you really happy, or you just addicted and
Right.
miserable from that? So I think if you find that it's the balance, it's important.
Sure.
Balance. Yep.
Yep. Balance in all things, I think, is a good point.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah. Okay. Originality, adventure, and comfort zone. Originality, adventure, and comfort zone. Um, I think we're all original in some way. I would prefer that to being just like everybody else. Adventure is somewhat important to me. I've talked before about in my 20s that I had an opportunity because of the job that I had at the time to do a lot of traveling. Now, Glenn would say he would say I've never been anywhere because I haven't been out of the United States. But in terms of the region in which I live, I've seen a lot of things. I've been on the West Coast. I've been in the breadbasket of the country, and I've driven a couple different routes over to the West Coast and back, and seen a lot of things. And I'm happy that I had that. I'm happy that I have had some adventure. I think that we can get in a comfort zone and kind of stay there, and I think that is a mistake. I think that we should all strive to get ourselves out of the comfort zone from time to time, because I think
Yeah.
you discover some things that you otherwise wouldn't have noticed before, and I think it enriches your life. So I think that we've been, working, and the economy's been pretty rough with the whole COVID thing and all that, and then so I think this has kind of gone up and down. But I would say that this one is a big one for me. I would originality, adventure, comfort zone, and all that. Especially adventure. I would like to have more adventure. I'd like to do more things, and there's still time, fortunately. And I would say that I'd like for that to be at a 7 or an 8, maybe. Where now it's the adventure. I think I have adventure every day in my relationship with Jen. I think that fulfills me. I don't need to go out and look for outside adventure. I think it's adventurous, the kind of life that I live. But having said that, I still would like to get a Winnebago or a trailer, and put it on the back of the van and travel around a lot more. That to me would be adventure, and that's something that it's a dream of mine, and I don't know that I'll ever achieve that, but it's in there. So who knows? Who knows what will happen?
Who knows?
What do you think, Jen? Originality, adventure, and comfort zone. What do you think?
I think a 10 on all these.
Okay.
That's my the importance.
Okay.
Most relevant. I think when I think about originality, I think of authenticity. I think about us being our original selves, who
Yeah.
God created us to be, who we are right this moment, how
Sure.
the person that the rest of our life behind us
Yeah.
has created us to be.
Mm-hmm.
Adventure, I agree with you. Every day is an adventure within our relationship and just in life. Hopefully, we're learning something new every day about ourselves, about our people that are in our lives, spouses, family, people in general. When we come in contact with other people, hopefully, we're learning things. Sometimes it's who we don't want to be
Right.
or who we don't want to be like. And sometimes, we're inspired by other people. And I think
Yeah.
about your sister and her tutoring. She just is such an inspiration.
Mhm.
And comfort zone. I think the more we come in alignment with who God wants us to be and who we are within ourselves, there is a certain comfort zone there when it's based on who God says you are and who you say you are, instead of the external. We've talked about this quite a few
Yeah.
times. The external
Sure.
versus the internal, validation,
Yeah.
acknowledgement. So I think when you are yourself and you're comfortable in that, where you're at,
Yeah.
even though you are still growing and changing every day,
Yeah.
there is a beautiful, beautiful comfort zone there, and nothing and nobody can take it from you. It's
Right.
it's awesome, and it has not always been that way with me.
Right.
It's only been the last couple of years,
Yeah.
but what a relief.
Well, yeah, and and having talked about where you've come from, yeah, it would have been very difficult to create a sense of adventure in the relationship that you're in at the time. But hopefully in this relationship, you know that all that's open. You can have as much adventure as you want. And I think that's a good thing. I think you're doing great.
Thank you.
All right, Glenn, originality, adventure, and comfort zone. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm no adventure junkie, that's for sure. No, I don't need to put on scuba gear and go to 100 meters, or, jump out of a plane without a parachute or whatever. But I was just thinking, adventure, you don't even have to leave your house to have
Right.
adventure. It can all be in your head. I mean, I
Right.
can say it's an adventure to write to yourself. It's like, and that is, it's whatever you see as an adventure. It's an adventure to, obviously, for me to go different places, but it's not a necessity. So in terms of originality, I'll number it 6. I can be, but not as original as some. I mean, I just saw this show on TV about Leonardo da Vinci. I mentioned it to you, in his younger years, and you just think, where on earth do these people get that talent? How do they get such original sort of thoughts and concepts and artistry in a person? It's beyond my comprehension. So
Right.
amazing. So adventure, I'd be in the same range, 6.5 maybe.
Okay.
A comfort zone, I'm very high up on the scale. That'd be 9.
Right.
But I like to go out of my comfort zone.
Right.
And the way that obviously I do that is I go places that I'm unaware of and are going to challenge me.
Right.
So I don't. I'm already in the comfort zone, but being out of it, it's still the same number really. I'm going to fit in either way. So, is it important? Yeah, I honestly think I keep coming back to the first bit. I think in my head is the biggest adventure of all. It's what I can conjure up.
Yeah.
In that place. That's the key, I think. And if you just say, well, life's boring and I can't be bothered even thinking about it, well, obviously there's not much adventure for you that's going to come forward, is there?
Yeah.
You're not going to even perceive doing something different. It's going to be adventurous.
Right.
So yeah. Okay, that's my answer.
Thank you, Glenn.
Okay.
All right. The next one is freedom, security, and safety. And I'll go first on this one. Freedom, security, and safety. Freedom is very important to me. I have always been a person. I grew up in the 70s, and at the time they had I'm sure people from America will remember, or at least have heard of, the bicentennial, or 1976. And some of you weren't even born then. Others of you were already an adult at that point, or maybe in your early 20s. I don't know. But I remember that. I remember what a big deal they made. Every commercial on TV, and there was red, white, and blue everywhere. And products had the flag on them, and it was a big deal. And I remember the patriotism that in that time in our country, it seemed like it was a lot higher than it is now. Of course, we got an uptick with 9/11 when that happened. It seemed like they saw the flags out everywhere. Everyone stuck a flag out on their front porch and bumper stickers and all that, because we had whether real or perceived, a common foe to be angry at. And it brings us together, and it causes a rise in patriotism and things like that. But our personal freedoms, I would say, to me, personal freedom is about a 10. I don't really have a 10, as freedom of speech is being eroded, in my opinion. You can't present your opinion. Well, you can present your opinion, but you get scrubbed, at least on YouTube. We've mentioned that before, how channels are being censored and sanctioned if you're not saying things that are in line with the quote unquote community standards and things like that. This show in particular, never been sanctioned, never it's not really a incendiary show. You know, we don't talk about a lot of things that ruffles people's feathers. And it's not that type of show. Anyway, that's not the purpose or not the point. But even if I don't agree with someone's opinion, I will defend their right to have it. And it saddens me that freedom seems to be less important to most people. For me, it's at a 10. Security, who doesn't want to be secure? I think of this country is fairly secure. I mean, you know, we have people that are cause mayhem and shootings and things like that, but it's compared to other things, it's very rare. It's a violent world. Security is incredibly important, especially like it's important. This apartment where we live, this bubble where Jen and I stay, it's important that it be secure. Always good
Yeah.
locking the doors and things like that. And eventually, we're gonna probably buy a handgun. Not for now, but later. And part of what makes me think that is the way that people handled this virus thing and fighting over toilet paper. I mean, the very fact that we live in a world where that can happen, or Black Friday. You'll never catch me at a Black Friday ever.
Nope.
I will never be getting up early to get there, get in line to get the first thing. It goes back up to the material goods, which
I've only done that once, and that was enough. Like, nope,
yeah, never again, right?
never again.
Yeah. So security, safety is also important. I want to be safe. I don't spend a whole lot of time worrying about safety. I lock the doors on my vehicle when I come in, and I lock the door on the apartment, and that's about all we have right now. You know, things could change in this country and make it more necessary to add more security. It's ironic that I'm going to be working for ADT security system and things like that. So who knows? I learned a lot about taxes. Maybe I'll learn more about home security, and maybe it'll become more important. But I would say that freedom is a 10. Security and safety, I would say that's also up there high on the list. But it's not something that runs my life. I'm not thinking about that all the time. How about you, Jen? Freedom, security, and safety. What do you think?
You know, I looked at this completely different. I looked at this in the context of relationships
Oh, no,
and
great.
emotions,
Oh,
emotional.
like Glenn said, you can answer the question any way you like.
Yeah. Emotional freedom, security, safety.
Oh, yeah.
Something that I've just been learning so much more about, because up until 3 years ago, I had zero
Right.
emotional and even physical,
Right.
security, safety, freedom. So yeah, 10 on all
Sure.
of its importance to me. I think
Sure.
it's really important for me to have the freedom,
Yeah.
to be myself, and
Yeah.
security and safety and relationships, emotional security, physical security and safety.
Yeah.
But emotional being a big deal. And I think this is to a lot of people. Maybe not enough to some. I know it wasn't enough to me for a really long time,
Right.
enough to make different decisions and choices about who I surrounded myself with.
Yeah.
And then also, stemming back to the things that I thought about myself, I didn't really feel worth being free to be me. I didn't feel worth having emotional security or even physical security or safety,
Yeah.
emotional safety. So, having all of these things now at this point in life, it's just highlighted how important it is.
Sure.
And sometimes your circle of friends and people, safe people, is going to be smaller,
Right.
because there are people out there that'll want to take advantage, or be toxic.
Right.
Go away, toxic people.
That's right.
But having these things being high on your list of importance, freedom, security, and safety, especially when it comes to relationships, I think it's a positive thing.
Sure.
So that's my answer.
I love your answer, and I'll just real briefly. I'll say that I like the way that you looked at that, and I would agree with you. It'd be 10 for me. It's important for me to feel free in my relationship, secure in my relationship, and to feel safety. And I do. I can't improve on that anymore. It's really, I'm really at the top of the chart there in that area. So I appreciate your answer, Jen. Glenn, this one's for you. Freedom, security, and safety.
I was just a little distracted. Could you give me just what you said in the last 60 seconds? I think you mentioned relationship in terms of freedom, etc.
Yeah, Jen was mentioning. Jen said she looked at this a whole different way. I was talking more about, freedom of speech and things like that, and Jen took it a different direction. Was talking about in her relationship. So she's talking about emotional freedom, as opposed not just physical freedom and our rights necessarily, but feeling free in our relationship and security and safety emotionally is what Jen took that route.
Okay. Yeah, looking at it from a comparative of being some places where there isn't this time I will, but we have in this country, we have a very, very high amount of freedom, security, and safety. I mean, you can say Big Brother does this and that, and the media is biased, but at the end of the day, in this town where I live, do what you like. You can leave you can leave it. Touch wood. You can leave all your doors open, and you can drive off in the car. And when you come back, it's a very 99% chance that no one will have broken in, stolen your property, and you can walk down the street and no one's going to mug you. That's American word, isn't it? Hit you or belt you up. So it's important. What I mean, I would rate 10 on it as well, because who wants to live in fear?
No.
That someone's going to, we don't have guns, but I mean, someone is thinking someone's going to, you go into Walmart and somebody in there and they're going to pull a gun and start shooting 10 people. Well, crikey, that wouldn't be a good thought for me. So, relationship, freedom, security, safety. Well, I've got 10 on that, so that's pretty easy. I've said that before. So yeah, I think we're very fortunate, and it's it's very, very important to just be a peace of mind.
Okay.
Which is in the next question or next statement.
Yeah, sure.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Thanks, Glenn.
I'll go to you again, Glenn. Again. No. I'll go to you again, Glenn, on this next one. Happiness, contentment, and peace of mind. Where do you rate those things for you? Happiness.
Extremely high. Having been on both sides of the fence where I've been miserable, discontented, and having turmoil of mind.
Yeah.
Oh, crikey. Not having that. It's like the sky is blue and not grey. It makes such a difference to your whole outlook, and not to have stress. All of that crap that just will take you down. It will make you sick. It will hurt you, and essentially, I think it will destroy you. So it's got to be 10 as well. It's just something I would, having been on both sides, I would not wish to live for a moment without those three things.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to steal your answer.
Go ahead. You're up next, Jen. So
10 on all those. And I'm the same as Glenn. I've been on the other side of it, having the exact opposite. And it's just so awful. And unfortunately, it became my normal, to where I didn't realize how bad it was until I got out. And having peace, having contentment, happiness, peace of mind, it is highlighted to a T how incredibly precious and important it is. And when I think of happiness, I mean joy.
Yeah.
Just an abiding joy that comes out from the deepest parts of you. To where it's not shifted and changed by, if you got a bigger check this week, or the sun is shining outside, or your favorite TV show's on, or whatever. It's just this deep abiding joy.
Yeah.
But it's priceless. It's absolutely priceless.
I would agree. Good. Well, we're all on the same boat on this one. So for me, happiness, contentment, and peace of mind. I liked what both of you said. I'll hold my hand up, as Glenn says, the way he described being on the other side of it. I've been there. I hate anxiety. I just hate it. I hate the way it makes me feel. I hate when I don't feel content, in a contented place in my life. Certainly, peace of mind is extremely important to me. So in times that I haven't had that, I really, really covet where I am now. I would say that I have more of these three things than I ever have, ever. Maybe when I was a kid and I didn't have to worry about bills or jobs, but I still feel safer now in right where I am. I feel safer. I feel more happiness, contentment, peace of mind than I did when I was a kid, even because there were things that I didn't feel safe about in my own family. I didn't have as much peace of mind back then as I do now. But I'm in a safe place, and I like what Jen said in reference to the other answer. You surround yourself with certain people, and the list may be smaller, but I'm going to choose people that add to my peace of mind and contentment and happiness rather than people that seem to disrupt it. I really don't have any place for that in my life. I don't have any time to deal with that sort of thing. So it's important to me, very important to have these things. And I'll just say, biblically speaking, I like what Jen said about it being joy rather than happiness, and I would agree with that completely. And John says in the, I think it's First John, maybe, no, it might be the book of John. John talks about that we have God's joy, we have Jesus's joy. It's not even our joy, it's his joy. He says he gives it to you, and Jesus said he gives you the peace that he has, he gives us. And I have a better understanding of that than I ever have, because sometimes the peace that I feel does not match the circumstances that I'm dealing with. And I've really struggled with this for a long time. I look at my life and I think, well, I'm really in a bind here. And we're going to get to that more when we get to the part about failure. But I'll just say briefly that we mature, we grow, we go through hard things. And on the other side of that, I think you have more peace of mind, more happiness, more contentment after you've struggled, after you've been through something. And people may disagree with that. And that's okay. That's what that's exactly what we're here to do, is have discussions. So, but for me, I have struggled a lot. And the more I've struggled, it seems, the more content I am where I am. I'm not trying to reach for something that I don't have. I tend to have these things in my life right now. So I would say it's a 10 for me, what I have. And I hope it, well, not just hope, I know it's going to continue regardless of my circumstances. I'm getting better and better at that. I'm not just looking at my circumstances as a gauge as to how much contentment and peace of mind I have. And I think it's a sign of maturity. I think that only through maturity do we get to that point where we can not look at our circumstances as being a barometer of how much peace of mind or contentment or happiness we should have. So that's
great. Chris, can I add one thing, please?
Please feel free.
I had obviously something I talk about. I said here the other day that if my ex-wife had taken one of my children and run off and left, even in the most miserable of places, the one where you want to put your head through a wall or in a bucket every day, I would have stayed. I would have stayed, and I would have accepted this.
Yeah.
I mean, and you look back, and I think for any other person in this position, and I'm sure there are people out there that live with this discontent. I mean, I understand why it's difficult to get out of it, because you can't see it. You just think it's your life. You think this is
right.
This is you just got to grin and bear it. You think,
Yep.
Oh man, it's just it's just so horrific to think of it. But having done it, I know how difficult it is to get out of it.
Yeah.
I just want to say to people who are in that position, it is really hard to take that step. But if you do, you need people to help you do it. It's something that's incredibly difficult to do just by yourself.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, sure. And I think it's hard for a lot of people to ask for help. I like what you said. You reach out to people, or I'm paraphrasing what you said, but basically what I got out of it was, uh, you need help with this, and you don't have to go through things alone. But it's a matter of finding people that are empathetic about your struggles. But there are people out there that are interested in being there with you, and it's important to surround yourself with those types of people.
Well, I think perhaps just for me, it got to the point where I could actually feel myself disintegrating, and at that point, I said, I need help.
Yeah.
I couldn't
That's
do
where
it
I
any.
was.
I was not capable anymore of trusting myself not to do something stupid. I don't mean suicide, but I remember I smiled in retrospect where I actually threw a tea towel at my ex-wife, and I thought, shit, I threw something at someone. I'm in a bad way.
Right.
And the next day I went and got help.
Right.
So, yeah, I could feel myself coming to the end of the road where
Right.
we really have no place to turn. So you
Right.
just don't have the capacity sometimes to do it. You're out of your depth, and it's
Yeah.
it's not a failure.
Right.
But there, thank
Yeah. Thank you, Glenn. Appreciate that. Yeah, I'm glad that you're a person that realizes that if you throw a cup at someone, that you might need to talk to someone for sure. I wish everyone would be able to look at themselves and realize when they're at that place. And you should be comfortable asking for help. It's okay. That was my point earlier. We all struggle with things. We all have things that we need help with, and it's okay to ask for help. Okay, we all answered that one. The next one is, this is a good one: confidence, acknowledgement, and approval. And we'll start with Jen on that. Confidence, acknowledgement, and approval. What do you think?
Huh. My confidence is probably like at a 6.5.
Oh, it's gone up though.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, it's definitely gone up. Acknowledgement, I think of this as it's twofold. I think there's some self-acknowledgement there. I think it is important to be acknowledged by other people, not in like a, oh, I'm awesome kind of way. I
Right.
just mean having people in your life that see you, that hear you, that care about
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
And acknowledge your pain, acknowledge your triumphs, your victories, your, all that kind of stuff
Sure.
that goes on in life, your sorrows. And approval. That's an interesting one. Approval. Huh. I'm still working through, and again, there might be people out there that don't agree with this kind of self-focus, and I completely understand why it makes people uncomfortable, but there is a level of approval that I'm learning to have in regard to myself, and approval just seems like such a lowly word. It's more of kind of like rejoicing in who God has created me to be. It's not so much approval or even acceptance. It's more of, is that making sense?
Yeah.
I can't even
Nope.
ramble.
Nope.
Nope, it's not. Okay. Don't lie, Crips.
No, I'm not. I'm not lying. Approval, approval is something that we seem to need from people sometimes, and we
Yes.
set aside our life wanting approval, and we expend our energy sometimes for that approval.
Yeah.
And what if we never get it? We never get to the point where we get the approval that we want. That's why I think it's so important to, if you're a believer, then you want approval from God, and He gives it to you willingly because He knows your situation more than you know it yourself. So you don't have to struggle from approval from outside, external approval. You can be content with who God's made you to be, as you mentioned earlier. So yeah, what you're saying makes sense.
Yeah.
Acknowledgement, I would agree with you that, acknowledgement feels good for someone to say, yeah, you're doing a great job. And we give each other acknowledgement all the time. And I think it's a necessary part of a healthy relationship. But if I didn't acknowledge you, it wouldn't be like your whole psyche would be crushed. And especially as that confidence level grows, you'll need less acknowledgement, you'll need less approval, outside approval. You should be the one, and I agree with what you said. There are people that don't agree with this sort of look, deep look at yourself. It comes across as being selfish, but that's not the way that we see it. We
Yeah.
see it as God made us an individual person in this world, and he wants us to be salt and light. How can you be salt and light if you don't even know what your own struggles are? You don't even know who he's made you to be. So that there needs to be some focus on how he's made you.
Like self-reflection.
Self-reflection is extremely
not
important.
self-obsession.
Right, exactly.
Self-reflection.
That's
Kinda
right.
rhymes.
Good point. Yes, it does. It does rhyme. So it's important to have confidence. So for me, confidence, I would say 7 maybe now. It was a lot higher. Well, I don't think you'd call it confidence. I think earlier in my 20s it was more like arrogance, and I had no reason to be arrogant. And as I've mentioned before, God had a way of beating that right out of me with life. So it's a different thing to be confident. I am way more confident now than I have ever been, and that's a good thing. And that comes with maturity as well. The difference between confidence and arrogance. I don't want to be arrogant. It's a horrible thing.
Yeah.
And when I see people that are arrogant, it just sticks out like a sore thumb. I don't want that. And I need less acknowledgement. And I mentioned the thing about approval because it was kind of a stark realization to me about 2 years ago when I realized that I was still seeking approval from my family for things I'd done 20 years before. And they were happy to have me stay in that place of needing their approval because it meant that I'm a servant. I'm bowing and scraping and doing everything they want me to do. I was eating crow, so to speak. And I had to break out of that because it's not any place because I'm never going to get the approval. They're never going to look at me, in my opinion. They're never going to look at me the way I want them to. They've got it stuck in their minds of who I am, and that's the way it's going to be. And that's okay. Once I realized that, I didn't need their approval anymore. And now I'm open to a relationship with them. They can have a relationship with me and know that if I can do something, I'm gonna do it. And if I can't do it, I can't do it. I'm not gonna do it. And that's a much better place for me to be in. Okay, Glenn, confidence, acknowledgement, and approval. What do you think of these 3?
20s was a 2, 30s was a 3, 40s was a 7, 50s was an 8, 60s was a 8.5. That's the answer to the first.
Nice.
Okay.
I think in terms of acknowledgement and approval, I think the less confidence that you have, maybe it's inversely proportional. The more confidence that you have, the less acknowledgement and approval you need.
Right. Right.
That's just thinking of it seems relevant, but the worst thing I can think of is having to have a thought, oh, that person didn't acknowledge me or validate me in that for what I just did. That's got to be, to me, that our differences on validation.
Yeah.
But I don't seek it. If people can't offer it, if people feel they're obligated to acknowledge and approve you, why would you be interested in that for a start? So it's not relevant to me, acknowledgement and approval. It's nice if it's done, as you said, on the fly and automatically within the context of your existence, but just having to feel like someone fudging it or just saying it to get something from you, which people can use it as a tactic.
Sure.
So that rate's low for me, very low. I don't need it, and if people don't want to give it, I don't care.
Right.
Right.
Oh,
All right.
okay.
There you go.
Thank you. All right, Jen, we'll go with you with this next one. Family, children, and friends. Family, children, and friends. How does that rate for you?
Well, if we're talking about family as in husband, I'd say a 10.
Yeah, 10. Yeah.
Family definitely is high up there. Probably like 8.5, 9.
Okay. Yeah, it's important. It's important to you.
Outside of, my husband.
Right.
Children, I know Glenn asked me a question about this while I was writing up. You know, you and I have a desire to have kids if God
Yep.
blesses us with kids.
Yep.
But if for some reason that doesn't happen for us, we'll be okay.
Yeah.
And
That's true.
friends, you know, I do really have a small circle of friends, like really, really, really close friends. And I'm grateful. Uh, but it's weird. It seems to have gotten smaller with the COVID. I don't know if other people had opposite opposite like reactions. If their circle of friends got bigger with COVID or
Right.
smaller, I'd be interested to hear what people's experiences have been. But I also
Right.
moved. I moved away from my hometown too last year,
Yeah.
so
Thank
that
God.
kind of made it a little bit smaller.
Yeah.
Which is okay. I'm comfortable with that. And I think even now, the place I'm at with my security and God and my marriage and where God's taking me, um, and my like the autonomy and self worth and all that stuff,
Hmm.
self esteem, God esteem.
Yeah.
I don't feel. I think I used to feel really empty if I didn't have a lot of friends, like I did back in
Right.
high school.
Right.
But even that was fluff. I think it's just this false sense of security.
I would agree.
And so when you can have a small, even a large, I mean, some people have a large circle of friends where they're really, really close to and have deep relationships. Doesn't always have to be small,
Right. Right.
but sometimes it just is. So I'm looking back. Importance, I'd probably say family is the highest.
Okay.
And then children and friends is a little bit lower, but still pretty high priority.
Yeah. Sure.
Just, I'm like, what's the church term? Fellowship. I
Fellowship.
was
Yeah.
like, what's the word? It popped out of my head and then came back in. Fellowship is good. Fellowship is good. And having children is good too, but it's
Yeah.
not always as well for people and just never know. So, hello?
Hello?
Did we lose you? Well, it sounded like you were in the middle of saying something and then it just went dead. Are you done?
No, I'm done.
Okay. No problem. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Okay. Yeah. For me, I would agree with Jen that if you're talking family being the two of us, yeah, that's definitely 10. And outside family, yeah, it's important to me. I enjoy spending time with my sister who lives close by, her and her husband, and three nieces and a nephew, especially the nephew. And I think the girls are a little bit older, and I was a part of their life when they were younger. It's a lot easier when they're young, I think. Um, but I love them; they're wonderful, and I enjoy spending time with them. And I always will. It's important to me. So I would say, maybe if you're talking about with Jen, it's a 10. If you're talking about my outside family, maybe an 8 level of importance. I like the way that Jen phrased it. If God blesses us with children, great. I think that He put in our hearts to be parents, and I think we would make great parents. I have no doubt about that, and I have no nervousness about that part whatsoever. Um, but I agree with what Jen said. If we don't have children, I'll be okay because I get a lot of fulfillment out of my relationship with her. And if that's it, then I am totally content. I have peace of mind about that option. Uh, but I would be thrilled if that were to happen, if we were to have children. Friends, it's changed a lot for me too, Jen. I've always had friends, but I chose people just like we all do from our wound, and I picked friends that would eventually betray me, and I still seem to experience that from time to time, but it's way better because I feel like I choose better friends. Um, I've got friends that I've known since I was a kid, and those tend to be my best friends. Those are people that have been through a lot, and they're still around. They're still there. Other friends have gone by the wayside, not because of some rift or anything. Just you get out of communication with people and things like that. So I would say friends is maybe importance is 6 for me.
Hmm.
Uh, I would be open to more friendships. What I'm not open for is people that aren't authentic, and I think it's very difficult to find friends like that. Unfortunately, I wish it was. I wish I was more optimistic about that, but I'm not. Uh, I would like to be proved wrong. I would like to have meet people that are on the same path that Jen and I are, and the same path Glenn's on, which is to be an authentic, open person and bring things to the table and talk about things. But I have found it increasingly disappointing how difficult it seems to be to talk with people and have a difference of opinion and that be okay. I'll just talk briefly. One of my oldest friends, his name is Marcus, and I met him when I was 7 and he was 5, and we're still friends. And we don't agree on everything at all. But I've known him so long, fortunately, that we can have a conversation and not be the end of anything. We can disagree and it'd be okay, but I find that to be rare. So anyway, that's where I am with that. Everybody get a chance to answer that one? I think so.
No.
Nope. Glenn, family, children, and friends. Sorry, I almost forgot you there.
Okay. As a parent, children have got to go to 10. I think.
Sure.
There's no question of that for me. Families behind it, 9.
Right.
Friends would be 8. But unlike you, I have very, very few close friends, but the ones who I am close friends with are gold. And I think that's indicative. There a lot of these, or some of these, of these very few, I've known them for 40 or 50 years.
Right.
And things have always been that way.
Right.
I don't have time for superficial people.
Right.
What's the point? Why am I going to invest myself into that?
Yeah, really.
Well, no,
Really?
thanks. As Sandra would say, she doesn't suffer fools gladly.
Right.
So yeah, 10, 9, 8.
Wow. Well, that's great. Thank you for sharing
Thank
that, Glenn. I would agree with you on that. Next one, love, intimacy, and reconciliation. This is one I'm looking forward to talking about, but I'll go to Glenn first on this next one. Love, intimacy, and reconciliation, if you would, sir.
You caught me short.
You want me to come back to you?
Yeah, I was just typing something in chat, but would you mind, please?
Not at all. Jen, do you want to go first or should I?
You should go first.
All right, no problem. I'm glad to. Yeah, love is a 10 for me, and I have it. I want it. I enjoy it, and there's no room for improvement. There really isn't. I mean, as far as experiencing love fully, and not just what the movies represent, and not what I dreamed about before I met Jen. What we have is greater than any expectations that I ever had. And when I said no room for improvement, I just meant that as far as experiencing love fully, I do, and it will continue to be that.
Gotcha.
Intimacy, yeah. I think that the more Jen and I get to know each other, the more intimacy we share. And yes, there's always room for improvement in that area. But we're open with each other and authentic, and we talk about things, we bring things to the table, and I wouldn't ask for anything different than that. So that's a 10 for me. Reconciliation, there's that word again. Reconciliation, in my opinion, is the whole reason why we have a Bible. The Bible, to me, is a book of reconciliation. It is a love letter from God to us. I've talked about this before more than once. I see the whole story. I see the whole story of Scripture, the whole story of God sending His Son into the world was to reconcile us to Him, because we're separated from Him because of sin. And it's personally important to me. Some of the movies and books and songs that move me the most, even hymns, are related to this topic of reconciliation. When we are watching a movie and people are broken up or divorced, and then they get back together in a meaningful relationship, they made mistakes in the past. Or families that are separated, and maybe something bad happened, and they're not on speaking terms. and then they move to the positive in a positive way towards reconciliation. I would say that that's extremely important to me. I wish that I could reconcile with everyone, from my past if they were into that. I don't want to be at odds with anyone. I don't want to have any tainted water, so to speak, in my relationships. But you can reconcile things to yourself, but you can't force anyone else to reconcile. It's up to them to do that. But the importance level for me is at 10. What do you think, Joe?
Let's see. Love, intimacy, reconciliation. I kind of see all these sort of intertwined in any relationship, whether it's romantic or friendship,
Sure.
relationships within life. Hopefully there's love there, loving the people that you're connected with.
Yeah.
Intimacy can be other than, sex stuff. It's
No,
it's
absolutely.
closeness, it's being close to people and bearing yourself to people emotionally, and reconciliation is a big
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Because in any relationships, friendships, or more intimate or romantic, there's always going to be conflict
Uh-huh.
of some sort that's going to come up, and hopefully there's reconciliation when those things come up.
Yeah.
And it can be devastating if there's not.
Right.
So I just watched a show. It was like another radio show on YouTube, and the host was talking to this one guy, and he was a best man, and there was something that happened, and he wanted to tell his best man, or the groom, that he shouldn't get married to this girl. And
Right.
oh, no, I'm so sorry, this was a different one. This one was a couple friend of theirs that went to a church. He found out that the husband, through his wife talking to the other guy's wife, found out that the husband was soliciting images from minors.
Mm.
And it was church people,
Wow.
churchgoers. And he knew about it through his wife, because his wife had talked to the other guy's wife, but he had sat on it for months and just was so afraid of conflict. He just didn't, just, I guess, go to the guy and call him out on it and be like, hey, let's get some accountability. Let's pray. Let's call the police. Just, they did end up calling the police, but he never confronted his friend. And the host of the radio show was talking about how that is a friend. When your friends get caught in stuff like that, or when you see something going on, part of being a friend is conflict, and is approaching things, and it's scary. You may lose a friend, but if you don't step into that, are you a real friend? It was just really interesting.
Oh.
So not that that's necessarily reconciliation, but it's just a nice little side tidbit there.
Yeah. Sure. Thank you. Glenn, what about you? Love, intimacy, and reconciliation, where do those rate for you?
Oh, I've had it for a long time now. I don't know what to do without it. Same old story. If you haven't had it, you don't miss it, sort of thing, probably.
Right.
What do you think? That be true or not?
Yeah. If you don't have it, you don't know what you're missing. I think that's true about a lot of things, though.
So very high. I just give thanks that I have it. As you said, I think reconciliation is extremely important, because really, when you think about it, every relationship, whether it be lovers, friends, whatever, family, is just consistently and constantly based on reconciliation. It's happening as you automatically, just in your attitude, the way you speak, the way you interact, the way you deal with issues. So I think it's one of those things that flies under the radar until you really sit back and contemplate it. I think it's very easy to miss, but nonetheless, incredibly important.
Sure.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. All right, so let me get this. Okay, so we covered those, and then so let me move my thing here real quick. And there we go. Come on, there. Okay, there we go. Okay. I'm going to go over this before we get to the last three things, and we'll it's about 20 minutes till, so we're shooting for trying to finish up the top of the hour, and it looks like we're doing pretty good there. So I'll read this little bit in between the two, so you have an idea of what we're asking next. These are but a few examples that might assist us to open our eyes to what value we place on tangible versus intangible. One can have money, Bitcoin account, gold bars, etc., but only you can compare that with the importance of love, happiness, and contentment. The other angle to look at what we don't have compared with what we do is via the construct of failure, blame, and fault. How many times have we seen it? People assign the "I am a failure, it's my fault," etc. tag to themselves when it is not their doing at all. And that too, I have no options, I'm stuck, there's no way forward for me, and it's a double whammy. As Cripps knows, I detest the word failure because it feels so final, so inescapable, when it need not necessarily be like that at all. So the first one is, so what does failure mean to you? What does failure mean to you? I like that Glenn mentioned this, because this was an interesting conversation that came about because I was talking to him about my previous marriage, I believe. Isn't that correct, Glenn? I was talking about my divorce and
Yeah.
moaning.
You just seemed to, it was disconcerting to me when you kept describing it in terms of failure.
Yeah, and Glenn said, and this is a paraphrase, not an exact quote, but he basically said, don't call it failure, and I'll allow him to explain it as he wants to when it becomes his turn. But basically, what I got out of it was he was saying that you can learn from your failure, and as he said in the write-up, it seems so final and inescapable. He was explaining this to me, and it was kind of a foreign concept. My whole life, I had looked at failure as, well, there's nothing I can do. I failed. And I believe that in some ways, I was stuck in the failure. I didn't look at it as opportunity. I didn't look at it as, well, you know what? Things didn't work out. What I should have done is, now when I look back at it, I am glad that marriage didn't work out. I can't be any more honest than that, to say that the way I look at it now was not the way I looked at it then. But the way I look at it now is that it was something freeing me up to have this wonderful relationship that I have now. And I wouldn't do anything to change that. If I could go back in time, I wouldn't have done anything different. It wasn't something that I had control over. And I don't look at it as a failure. I look at it as a step up to what I have now, for me to learn what I wanted out of a marriage and what things were more important to me, and making a better choice, how important that is. So I do look at it completely differently. So what does failure mean to me? We fail all the time. I think that there are things that we fail at. The key, in my opinion, is to not let that define you. There's lots of sayings, you fall off the horse, you get back up. If you fall down, you dust yourself off and get up and keep going. And those are great. I mean, those are great. But when you're the one falling, it's sometimes difficult to see that. But if you can get back up, don't allow your failure to define you, you can have success. And there are many stories out there of people that let's see, the rest of the story guy. What's his name? What's the rest of the story guy? I can't believe I can't remember his name. Anyway, there was a guy that did a radio show, very well known back in the day, and I'm just beating myself up that I can't recall the guy's name, but he did a show called The Rest of the Story. And one of the rest of the stories that he told was about Colonel Sanders, who was 70 years old before he discovered the original recipe that made him a millionaire. He had failed. He went over all the times that he failed, all the times that he attempted on starting a business and all that. And he talked about Lincoln, how many times he failed at politics, how many times he ran for office and got beat over and over and over again. Abraham Lincoln failed and failed and failed, if you're looking at it from that perspective, before he finally succeeded. The wise way to look at it is that our failures don't define us if we don't let them, but they're helping us, they're strengthening us to be able to have success. I don't know too many people that they turn 16, they get their driver's license, they get a job, and they never fail. They just go right out of the gate, right out of their home, and then just succeed the whole time. I don't know a single story like that, except for I'm sure people that are born into a lot of money, maybe then, I don't know. But I bet that they fail in their life in other ways, relationships and things like that. I'm sure everyone has failed at one time or another. What it means to me is opportunity. What it means to me is that it's a signpost that we can look back at, and we do better next time. We take our failure and turn it into a positive, and that has not always been my attitude. That is something because of I really listen to people, and especially I listen to Glenn. I don't always agree with everything he says, but I at least think about it. People that are important to me, people that seem to care about me as a person, I do listen. I do pay attention to what they say. And this one struck me, this idea of the way I was looking at failure. It was a turning point for me. So I just think of it as opportunity. I think of it as a way to do better, to look at when we fall down, we pick ourselves back up, and we keep trying. So it means keep on going. Don't quit. Don't ever quit. Your failures can turn into success, especially if you look at it. Your perspective is different.
Yeah.
What do you think, Jen? What does failure mean to you?
Well, my whole life I thought failure was failure.
Right.
And I was very afraid of failing, so I didn't try a lot of things. Unfortunately, got stuck in that fear cycle. But I have to say, Glenn has been a huge blessing to my life, with his reaction to us talking about failure in that light and sharing, and I've heard stories before. Like, I think of the guy who invented WD-40. The whole reason the 40 is in the title, the name, is that it was his 40th try
Yeah.
at the formula. You hear all these just amazing, inspiring stories, and I heard them as a child and as a young adult as well. But my whole upbringing kind of shaped and formed me to be a perfectionist, and I have for the longest time have had this expectation in my mind that if I sit down to do something, I want to do it perfectly the first time,
Mm-hmm.
which is ridiculous.
Right.
It's just not realistic at all.
Right.
So for a while, I've been working on that part, being patient with myself and having
Sure.
grace
Sure.
and changing my thought process and realizing that failure is stepping stones to success.
Oh, write that down.
So they have to happen.
Yeah.
It's a part of learning, like Glenn has said.
Right.
And I love that. I love that shift in mind frame. It's just really important. So those are my thoughts.
Great. Thank you, Jen. Appreciate that. Yeah, write that down when you get a chance. It's stepping stones. Yeah.
Stepping stones.
Yeah. All right, Glenn. What does failure mean to you?
Not much. I just shrug my shoulders and say, oh yeah, well,
yeah.
I expect to make mistakes. I expect to burn the dinner.
Yeah. Right.
What am I going to do? Is it going to define me in that I don't want to cook dinner again?
Right.
No, because if I don't cook dinner again, Sandra's going to be even meaner to me. But you know what I mean. What's the point in dwelling on it? It doesn't mean anything at all.
Right.
It means in this moment I made a mistake.
Right.
Right. That's all it means. It doesn't mean anything else. It doesn't mean how I'm going to view it in 10 minutes' time. Am I going to still be thinking I made a mistake? Am I going to have moved on? So it just doesn't seem very relevant at all.
Right.
So there you go. Thanks.
Okay. Thanks, Glenn. How do you view your own failings? I would say that I view them very differently than before. As I mentioned, I like what Jen said. You know, your failure is a stepping stone to success. I see it that way too. As Glenn said, you know, we're gonna fail. It's gonna happen. I don't know that I'm at the point right now where I just, like Glenn said, shrug my shoulders. I think it still is difficult to deal with failing. I don't want to fail. I don't want to go through the way that feels. But I'm way better at it now. When I fail, I might have a pity party for a few minutes, and then I move forward and start trying to come up with solutions. That's been something especially over the past 3 years or so, since I stopped taking care of grandma and went back into living a life. Because let's just be honest, when I was taking care of her for 2.5 years, I was living in some ways, but in a way I was really kind of in a caretake mode, and I was not doing things that were good for me until the last year. The last year was a lot different because my focus was different. I was seeing hope for a future, and I'm experiencing that now. And I look back at that person that I was during that time, and it's not like I'm saying, "Oh, you idiot, you did everything wrong." That's not the case. But I want to go back and tell them, don't spend so much time worried about the caretaking point, and try to focus more on living for yourself during this time. I wish I had done that, but I didn't. But that's okay. I even learned from that. So I view my own failings as I mentioned earlier, signposts that I can look back at and say, okay, it's just a gauge. Okay, so when I have failed in the past, I'm succeeding now, and without that, I wouldn't be where I am. These are things. These are points in my life. All my failings have led me to be success, especially in relationships. I didn't fail a lot in relationships, at least in romantic relationships, because I was so afraid of being rejected or being abandoned. That was a huge fear for me. And as I mentioned before, God allowed me to go through the very same thing that I was fearing I experienced, which was abandonment and betrayal. And it didn't kill me. It made me stronger, and it made me appreciate what I have now, which is a relationship with a person that would never reject me, would never abandon me in any way. She doesn't have any control over, how long she lives, nor do I. But that wouldn't be an abandonment. We're on good terms, and we'll continue to be on good terms. So by abandonment, I mean just leave. Like I come home from work or whatever, everything's gone. That's not ever going to happen. That's not something I worry about. In the past, I wrote. I'm a writer, and I wrote short. I remember a short story I wrote, and several of them I'd shared with a person in one of my classes, and they said, "You're a really good writer, but all of your stories, you seem to have a poor outlook on being betrayed by a woman." And I was kind of taken aback, and I was like, "What?" And I thought about what she said, and sure enough, I went back and looked at a lot of my short stories, and in every one of them, in some way, the male character was betrayed in some way, or abandoned, or rejected by the female in the story. So it was a self-fulfilling prophecy. It was almost like there was a part of me that expected that this is what was going to happen to me. And then it did. So did I set myself up for that? I think in some ways I did, by having that expectation. And did it keep me from being fully engaged in the relationship? I think it did. But now, having no fear of abandonment whatsoever, I'm free to be who I am and not live under that. I don't have an expectation of that ever happening. and it frees me up. It gives me a lot more freedom. So in other words, how do I view my own failings? Simply as things to learn from at this point.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I think I could have looked at my own marriage ending as a failure, and I think I did. I think I did at first. But I've learned so much from that. Um, I hear that phrase, "failing well." Who coined that?
I don't know.
Let's learn how to fail well.
Yeah.
I can't remember who coined that, but it's just interesting. It's an interesting
Yeah.
take on it. Knowing that failure is a part of learning, and maybe failing well is failing and giving yourself a break. Having grace and patience with yourself.
Yeah.
For me, that would be what failing well is, because I am incredibly hard on myself. I'm my own
Yeah.
worst critic.
That's true.
And when you start to heal from
Yeah.
things and you start hearing how you talk to yourself in your
Yeah.
head, it's like, holy, what?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm
Uh-huh.
so mean.
You
I
are.
would never talk to people, anybody, even my worst enemy, the way I
No.
talk to myself sometimes.
No.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that's
You-
what I've been learning.
Yeah. You're doing better. I feel like you're doing better, but it takes
I
time.
am, yeah.
Takes
Yep.
time to change something that you've been laboring under for most of your life. It does take time to do that, but you are.
I'll segue into the next question if you want.
Well, I didn't ask Glenn yet, but yeah, let's do that.
Oh,
Go ahead and answer the next one, and then when it's Glenn's shot, he can do both
okay.
at the same time. No problem.
Do you perceive failings tend to prevent you from testing the waters in the future? Oh, I know for a fact it did in the past.
Right.
Today, no, not so much. Try again.
Yeah.
I think that's my motto.
Yeah.
And, along with that is just recognizing I cannot be perfect at something on the first day.
Right.
I
Oh
had a
yeah.
little bit of a meltdown on my first day of this new job, and Jason had to remind me, it's the first day, Jen.
Yeah.
This is the first day. And even in the third week, it's the third week.
Yeah.
Like, it takes time to get the rhythm of another family and how they like things and how the kids
Yeah.
behave and all that stuff. And being thrown in there with no notes from the previous nanny. You know what I mean? And having to
Yeah.
ask questions and stuff, and kind of
Right.
only having so many, guidelines.
Mhm.
You kind of have to, figure it out.
Sure. Sure.
So,
Well, from what I've heard so far, maybe you didn't want any notes from the former nanny. You're already, in my opinion, based on comments that they've made, you're already doing way better in many
yeah.
areas than she did. And it shouldn't be a comparison anyway. You be the nanny that you are, and she can be whatever nanny she was.
Yeah.
But she's no longer in the picture, so it's all about you right now. But thank you for sharing that, Glenn. I appreciate, or Jen. Sorry.
You can call me Glenn.
I don't want to call you Glenn. That's not who you are. And I'm not in love with.
joking.
I know. I'm not in love with Glenn. So there you go. Okay, Glenn, how do you view your own failings? And then follow-up question, do your perceived failings tend to prevent you from testing the waters in the future?
First of all, Cripps, that last comment has left me devastated.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. You're going to lose a lot of sleep over that one.
Oh, you bet about as much as I will if I have to view my own failings. No, look, it's surely, I was trying to look at it, well, what's the point? What's the point? It's like being angry. I just say, what's the point? Some people disagree. I say, what's the point in recriminating over your own failings?
Right.
Look, with him, we make boo-boos. So if it, excuse me, I'm eating pistachio nuts. Do you perceive
Those are
failings?
delicious. Yeah.
They sure are. You should see Sandra trying to open them with one hand. Do you perceive, look, it's just not worth the energy, to be honest. What's the point? I just can't see it. Just get on with it. Just move on. So I view it as just, okay, it happened. I mean, nobody sets out, that I know of, to fail. Unless you are into self-sabotage or something like that, which I'm not. So if it's If it's just something you've tried, it didn't work out, well, so what?
Yeah.
So certainly wouldn't want to prevent it from testing the waters in the future. That to me sounds incredibly restrictive, and that's not how I want to live. So
Okay.
it's a pretty clear cut answer, because it's just, to my mind, basic common sense.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, sorry. I mean, I don't mean sorry, but John wrote something which I do not understand at all in this context. If you wouldn't mind, I'll read it. Inverted commas. I learned that the only failure that matters is the fact that when I die, where I go, and if I receive any reward. I'm not quite understanding how that relates to failure. Can somebody help, please? It's in the chat. In the chat, yeah.
Yeah. I think what he's saying. So what he says, I take that back. That BS I learned. The only failure that matters is the fact that when I die, where I go, and if I receive a reward. He's saying that because this is taught in churches. So he's saying he doesn't agree with that. It was BS that this was taught. The idea that all that matters is where you go, which in this case would be heaven or hell, and what you receive, whether you get a reward or not. There's a lot of people that are preoccupied with that idea of getting reward. I would guess, based on my interactions with John, that he's not concerned about that. His concern is to have a relationship, which should be the focus, should be on the relationship, not what you're going to get.
Yep.
There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with living your life. The Bible says, store up rewards in heaven by the way that you live, but that's not the focus. The focus is on what Christ did in reconciliation and love for God. So to explain it, Glenn, I think John is saying that that's what he was taught, and that's not his purpose. He doesn't agree with that being what to focus on. And John, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's what it's saying. Does that explain it?
So I'm asking you, the churches focus on failure. That doesn't how can that be so when obviously humans are not perfect to start with? That doesn't make sense to me. Why they would do that?
Why they would focus on
failure.
What focus on failure? Okay, now I'm confused.
What made you think that churches focus on failure, Glenn?
Yeah.
From what John said.
That was the inference of what I understood, and maybe I'm incorrect the way I've interpreted it.
No, they focus on where you go, heaven or hell. This is what they say. Do you know that you're going to heaven? They're pitching salvation as a means of escaping hell and getting rewards, rather than it being what it should be about, which is a relationship with the Creator, the one that made you and sent his son to save you and reconcile you to him. That's what it should be about. It should be about the reconciliation and the relationship, rather than it should be about where you're going to go. You should be able to relate to this, because you don't care. You think that this life is it, and you're not at all concerned about where you go when it's all over. So he's saying there are people that are focused on that. That's their main focus, is where you go. They use that as a tool to either bring someone in by fear of hell, or bring someone in by promise of some reward that we get in the future for what we do here.
I'm finding this quite difficult to understand, because he's saying I looked at the cross in the celestial city. People will kick me when I'm dwelling on my past failures. I wish maybe John, please explain this a bit more clearly for someone like myself who doesn't quite understand what you're trying to say. That would be really good.
Yeah, go ahead, John, if you care to explain to Glenn what you're saying. I've tried to explain the comment above. It's just, it doesn't seem to be getting through. I wonder
when he says people will kick me when I'm dwelling on my past failures, is he meaning church people or just people in general?
I
And
don't
then
know.
does he mean if he's just focused too much on his past failures, people add to that kind of weight?
Yeah,
Um,
I'm not sure.
and instead of looking at failures as, stepping stones to learning and growing.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people struggle with this. A lot of people get caught in their past failures. I mean, I've seen it happen, and I've been there. Not where it was all I ever thought about, but certainly my past failures weighed heavily. Uh, things I had regret over. I don't regret anything now because of the perception has changed. I look at the mistakes I made or the failure, whatever word you want to use, as a way to do better, to improve.
Well, do you think some people focus so heavily on their past failures that they don't think they're good enough to get eternal life, whatever it is?
Well, absolutely, and it's difficult, at least in Christian circles, that there are a lot of people that all they do is preach sin. That's all. That's their only focus is sin. So it's not on the love of God. It's on, oh, we're sinful. That's what their focus is on. So yeah, we've all sinned. None of us is perfect. So if that's all you focus on, and they continue to focus on it after the fact, oh, I'm saved, but you need to work on you're sinful, and they point out everyone else's constant failure, and that's what that's what they're pointing the finger at.
So
So
really, I'm sorry, you go.
how is anyone supposed to do better if the focus is constantly on a person's sin? How's that ever going to change?
Yeah, I see John's clarified. He says, my point was to focus on the future reality of being with God in heaven and his rewards we can receive, and not focus on my past failures or dwell on past failures, because religious and worldly folks will put a weight of shame on you and keep you in that state of mind to gain an advantage over you, at least in my experience. So, okay, that I can understand that in the sense that some people will actually say, you're not good enough.
Right.
You're a failure. You don't deserve this.
You're a sinner.
That's horrible.
Yeah. Thank you, John. Appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you. I know I took you off course there, but I was having trouble with it. So got to speak in the moment.
Okay, so John agrees. Yes, that's cleared up. All right. All that's left is for me to answer this. Do your perceived failings tend to prevent you from testing the waters in the future? Not at all anymore. In the past, yes. In terms of relationships, I didn't test the water based on even the perception. It wasn't even something I experienced. I mean, I had, send someone a note, a cute girl that I like, and, do you like me? Circle the box, and they circle no. That kind of rejection or whatever, but nothing major. This is all just small time stuff. But the fear of it kept me from testing the waters. Now, I'm glad it did. I'm glad that I didn't date a bunch of women and have all these relationships and things. And I've actually heard people say, well, you'd be better in a relationship if you had all these experiences and with women, different women. No, I don't need that. I don't need that at all. And I'm glad that I didn't do that. So it all ended up very good in my position. I'm happy with the person that I'm with, and everything that happened before simply made me the right person for her, and I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled with that. So my perceived failings do nothing to keep me from testing the waters. I'll try whatever I want to try, and if I fail, I fail, and if I don't, if I succeed, great. Either way, I'm going to do what I feel is right, based on what God tells me to do, the kind of person he wants me to be, and make decisions based on that, not based on whether I'm going to fail or not. So there's that. Okay, I'll go over the last couple quotes, and then we'll talk about Tuesday, and we'll be done. Albert Einstein said, a person who never made a mistake never tried anything new. And Albert Hubbard said, the greatest mistake you can make in life is to be continually fearing you will make one. I agree with both of those things. Seriously, what's the problem if we stuff up sometimes? How does the suggestion How about the suggestion that we embrace our failures and think of them as opportunities? I was going to mention just briefly, and I saw this in a movie, but I know that it's true that it's either Japanese or Chinese, but there's a character for failure that also has opportunity. They look at crisis as opportunity in the wind, so to speak. I think that's very interesting that the written character, has both of those things mixed into one. So it's not just failure, it's also opportunity. What a great way to look at it. That every failure that you experience is also opportunity for you. I think that's wonderful.
I would agree.
Next week, we examine forgiveness, its meaning and relevance to our unfinished life. And a small but excellent thought: open your eye and close your eye. And I is the letter I. Shalini Jane is the quote at the end there. And that's it for us. This is another great write-up. And next week, forgiveness is a very important topic, especially for believers. So you'll want to join us for next Sunday, same time, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And this has been TSL, An Unfinished Life. Open your eyes. This is really part 2 from last week. So if you haven't listened to last week, please go and listen. Also, we really appreciate it if you haven't already clicked the like button. That helps if people are thinking about whether to listen or not. So thank you for doing that. If you want to make any comments in the comment section, we welcome those. So you can leave a comment after the fact. Thank you for everyone that has come to the chat. If you're listening to the playback, we welcome you to join us for the chat. I think it's very interesting, and each person that joins, I love the conversations in here. So a reminder that Tuesday night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we will be having our continual meeting. It's just kind of a meet and greet sort of thing for about 2 hours, 8:30 to 10:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we just kind of talk, and it's been really, really great. And so Glenn wanted me to mention that he has some spiritually related questions for whoever comes in, from the perspective of a non-believer for believers to answer, I believe. And so some people have expressed some interest in that. And if you don't have the link, you've never been, send me an email and I will send you the link. No problem. So that's, again, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we welcome anyone. Anyone's welcome. And it's not on the air. It's just a way to get to know each other better off air. So like I said, you're welcome to come. Just let me know if you need the link and I'll send it to you. I'm not posting the link because anyone can watch these broadcasts. And if we have someone that doesn't listen to the show regularly and they come in, I don't want to deal with that. So it's just simply asking for the link, I think, is the best way to do it. Sometimes Glenn sends the link to people. He has conversations with people outside of TSL. And so if anyone wants to get a hold of Glenn too, that's another way you can get the link. So there you go. All right, let's say our good nights, and we'll start with Glenn. Glenn, say good night to the peoples, please.
Yeah, good night. Enjoyed the show. I enjoyed being here, and looking forward to Tuesday. And yeah, what can I say? Great.
Okay. Well, thank you, Glenn. Thank you for the write-up. And we have several more from you, and then you'll get a break. And so I'm going to start working on, well, I kind of have to base it on what subjects you cover. So maybe I should go look at the link that you put in the description with all the upcoming shows. Then I can get an idea of where to go from there, way ahead of time.
I think that would be beneficial, because you'll then see, we've mentioned about continuity. So we're trying to lead to it. We're always trying to get to a point at the end, which is a summary. Yeah,
gotcha.
Yeah.
I will do that. Hello to Debbie, and good night, Debbie, and good night, everyone else. And Jen, go ahead and say good night to the peoples, please, and then I'll close us off.
Good night, guys. And I just thank you. I want to thank everybody that commented, and shared in the
Yeah.
chat. And we just want to encourage anybody that hasn't done so yet. No pressure or anything, but we really, really do want to hear, what you guys have to share and what you have to say. And we don't necessarily want it to be a show only about Jason, Glenn, and I. Boring. No. um, we'd like to include you guys.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate all of you that have the courage to share and speak up, even
Yeah.
if it differs. We're going to respect, if you guys have differing opinions.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
thanks for coming out, guys. Have a good week. God
Thank you,
bless.
Jen. All right, that's it for us. Again, this has been TSL and Unfinished Life. Open your eyes. We'll be back again next week. We'll see some of you, or at least hear some of you, on Tuesday. Again, my email is truestorylive.crips@gmail.com. Glenn has also put his email in there, and we may see a few new people in there Tuesday, and that'd be great. Yeah, this thing is kind of taken off. I think we get an average of, I think on the high end, it's like 6 other people, and mostly at least 4. And it's been great. And so I look forward to that for Tuesday night. All right. Until next time, I hope everyone has a great week. Again, thank you for stopping by, for listening to the playback. Thank you for listening. And we'll see you guys soon. Until then, good night and God bless.